Welcome to our October Showcase Tuesday. October is Community and Economic Development Month in the Rotary calendar. Have you noticed that community and economic development can be understood in two ways? First, as an outcome, physical, social, and economic improvement in the community. And second, as a process, the ability of communities to act collectively in enhancing the ability to act collectively. Rotary's mission statement includes both outcome and process. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Tonight, we will learn about a Rotary-based community and economic development program that addresses both process and outcomes. Launch Raleigh. Let's listen to Matt Kane describe the balance in Launch Raleigh between the process of community economic development and the quality of content of the educational programming. Our session tonight is being recorded. Your image and speech will become part of the record. You may ask questions following Matt speaking. If you prefer to write questions in the chat box, Marlene Heller will pose those questions to Matt. Please mute yourself during the session and unmute at the end of the session to ask questions. Matthew Kane is an entrepreneur and a Rotarian. He graduated with a business degree from Virginia Tech and sold industrial printing equipment and was a power consultant for Houston Light and Power. He and his wife, Sonia, decided to move to Raleigh, North Carolina, where Matt founded Cutting Edge Engraving. He prepared and sold plaques, awards, and industrial engraving from his home for 28 years. Matt joined the Rotary Club of North Raleigh in 1996. He developed a passion for Rotary matching grants that gave hope and opportunity to the poor in Central America by focusing on literacy and microfinance loans. In 2017, Matt proposed that his club celebrate its 50th anniversary with a project to grow entrepreneurship in Southeast Raleigh. The club joined with 7 community partners to develop Launch Raleigh. It graduated its first class of 20 entrepreneurs in March 2017. He created Launch My City as a template for other communities. 17 launch programs serve in North Carolina, Michigan, and Colorado. He has received awards for this service and has presented internationally what we are about to see. Matt, would you please begin?
Yeah, happy to. Thank you, Bob. So, first of all, I want to say thank you all for your interest in this program, for your interest in community development. I've been involved with Rotary for 25 years, and it's been a joy for me to be involved in this particular project, maybe more than any other project. What I've learned is that people love entrepreneurs. They love the idea, and just about all of us have this little inkling in the back of our mind, I've got this business idea. I wonder if. And I found that Rotary has been a great vehicle for helping people realize their entrepreneurial dreams. Let me start explaining this program by sharing a story. Her name is Kathleen. She owns a cleaning business, and she's owned it for 3 years. She's hired 2 other women who also help her with her cleaning business as they clean residential homes. And she's really good at her business. She's great with her customers. Everybody loves her. But over time, she found herself kind of exhausted, just tired. And one day she realized, I'm a woman with a business, a pretty good business, but I really don't have any training in this, none. She heard about a program sponsored by her local Rotary Club that had partnered with a community college to devise a program called Launch Raleigh. Well, she filled out an application and she was invited to interview. And during the interview, she learned that it wasn't just an education program, but it also included mentors, access to capital, and networking. She says, I'm in. As class got started and she started meeting a bunch of other entrepreneurs, she learned something really important. She learned she wasn't alone, that the program connected her with 20 other small business owners. At the meetings that met once a week, they talked about their children, they talked about business problems, and they really kind of felt supported by one another and by the program. After she finished the 10 weeks of business education, she was matched with a mentor who became really a pretty good sounding board and gave her confidence that maybe, just maybe, she was doing the right thing. And the mentor ended up being her biggest cheerleader. You know, at this point, she now knows how to manage her business better. And she is now calls herself a Rotarian. And this is largely a true story with a cleaning business from somebody who graduated early in the Launch Raleigh program. So as Bob put up here, here's the program. The program's called Launch Raleigh. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, the central part of the state. We've got in my Rotary Club these days about 40, 45 club members. And we initially started this program. We planted the seeds back in 2016. Why? Well, we were having a 50th anniversary for our club. And a bunch of club leaders got together and said, you know, wouldn't it be good to have a special project, something really that we can sink our teeth into as to how our club has impacted our community. And they welcomed a bunch of different ideas. And over time, I approached some community leaders. We ended up filling out a needs assessment to try to figure out, what does our community need? And one of the things we learned was that in Southeast Raleigh, largely a Black community, there were all kinds of entrepreneurs with great skills, great passion, and they weren't really supported by the local business network. Not that they intentionally ignored them, but most of them, they were chasing shiny new toys, like the newest tech program that promised to scale to bring in 1,000 new employees into the city. But what we learned over time was there's not a whole lot of people supporting Main Street businesses. So we thought, I wonder what's out there. I wonder how we can make a difference in our community. So like any good Rotarian, what I did is I went out there in the Rotary world and tried to figure out, surely somebody has tackled this problem before about supporting small businesses in their community. And as it turns out, it's true. There was a group called Launch Detroit. And I learned that from a Rotary Action Group called Rotary Action Group for Community and Economic Development, that they put me in touch with these folks in Detroit. I asked 1,000 questions, maybe 2,000 questions, and they were really patient in answering all the questions. And eventually, we took enough information from theirs, we added a lot of tweaks, we put together a bunch of partners, and we put together Launch Raleigh, which offers 10 weeks of business training, small loans, mentors, and networking to small business owners in the Southeast Raleigh area. Next slide, please. One of the things that's really important to say is that this program is not designed for a Rotary Club to tackle themselves. There are a lot of moving parts. And if you're like my Rotary Club has a bunch of stuff going on already. So they're not interested in a program that demands all hands on deck all the time. Instead, what we realized we needed to do was to go out in the community and find other people to help with this work. Well, as it turns out, it made a lot of sense to approach the people who already do this for a living. So we knew that if we're going to provide education, why don't we talk to our local community college? I did, and they said, we love this idea. Our job is to provide education to entrepreneurs. Well, why don't we talk to somebody from SCORE or a local bank, and they can handle the finance component. There's an important community developer partner that can help us identify some of the people who might want to be in our program. The mentor partner is SCORE, and they do a great job helping us find mentors. My Rotary Club stepped up. We also got a district grant that allowed us to get some funding to get this program off the ground, thanks to 2 other Rotary clubs with a district grant. And finally, the city of Raleigh really liked what we were doing and said, yeah, we want to support this program. And then they whispered, oh yeah, by the way, it's kind of our job to support small businesses. And we love the fact that you're doing it and helping us. Next slide. The grant, by the way, was $5,000 total. So over time, we pitched what we were doing to a lot of folks in the community, and a lot of them really liked the idea and ended up providing a lot of tangible value to our program. For instance, you see there Shaw University, a historically Black college in Raleigh, provided this space for free where we met face-to-face, having the education programs. They're a great partner. These days, just I might mention, is we are meeting virtually like so many things do over Zoom. So Shaw University is a great partner. The city of Raleigh enjoys our program. They initially gave us a $10,000 grant and said, you know, we love what you're doing. And that helped us move forward on a lot of different fronts. More recently, they gave us a $30,000 grant to spread over 2 years. Why? They've seen that we've graduated over 130 people from the program, and they said, yeah, you guys clearly have identified a need. You're doing a great job. So these are some examples of some of the different partners that we've recruited. Why do we recruit all these partners? So that Rotary doesn't have to do all the work. Next slide. Here is our current class. It's our class 7. And this one started in the first week in September. And this gives you an idea of a bunch of the smiling faces of the entrepreneurs who came to us and said, yeah, I love this idea of participating in this program. Anywhere from food trucks to accountants to Christian apparel to instructional design, concierge services. You can see all kinds of businesses, and each cohort we have has just entirely different businesses, and it's really fascinating. We were honored to say that we've been around long enough, and we've ended up getting a lot of PR through some of the newscasters because people, again, everybody loves an entrepreneur. We ended up with 115 applications for our program, and we ended up selecting 20. So it's really nice to have a big selection. Next slide, please. Often people say, well, that's great, Matthew, but how the heck do you find all these people? How do you find them? Well, these days, they come to us. But early on, we went out in the community. Several of us went out. I went pitching it to chambers of commerce. I went pitching it to some of the local community partners. I spoke in libraries. I spoke in community centers. I spoke at church halls. I was even invited in one of the Black churches. All the audience was Black. I was the one white guy in there. They brought me up to the front, and I'm thinking, man, this is what it feels like to be a minority. One of the few times in my life, and it was humbling for me. And after the meeting, we had a great discussion, and plenty of them were interested in the program and are still supporters today. Next slide. I mentioned that Shaw University is a key partner, and they provide the space for the business classes. On a practical level, the class starts at 6 p.m. on Tuesday nights and ends at 9 p.m. And usually it's face-to-face. These days it's on Zoom. We had the idea. Well, as it turns out, it worked. So we provide a meal at 5:30. Normally, it's a buffet, and we provide a meal. It's nice and healthy food. They get there, they have a chance to talk about their businesses, they talk about what they did over the weekend, they talked about their kids, but basically they build a community of entrepreneurs. And when the dust settles, often we find those are one of the huge building blocks of this program. Entrepreneurs sharing stories with other entrepreneurs and building friendships. That last note on there about the homework, this program is not for the faint of heart. For somebody who just says, I'm just going to take this class and see what happens. Nope, doesn't work that way, because there's a lot of homework. There's 5 to 7 hours of homework each week between classes. Essentially, they're answering questions, and the answers to those questions end up populating a document. And that document is their business plan that they get at the end of the program. So it's really pretty ingenious the way that works. Next slide. Here's an example of the kind of information we share in the education components. The idea of understanding where does your business fit in the market? Who are your competitors? What kind of customer is your ideal customer? How can you really focus on business strategy? Are you just trying to be the lowest cost provider, or do you want to be the biggest value provider? How are you going to grow your business? So the program over these 10 weeks really bring them down to honesty and say, some people say, well, I started this business and really, in many cases, it was kind of like a hobby. And that was revealed to me that maybe I could be making a lot more money by doing this, this, and this. They implement those ideas and suddenly they realize, hey, I'm a real business. I'm making big money. Maybe I don't need that other full-time job again. I'm going to take this business to the next level. Next slide. Recognizing that we are always handling adult learners. This program doesn't have an instructor at the front who drones on and on about business. Nope. What we do is this person at the front is actually they have the title of facilitator, because what they're really doing is facilitating conversation on classroom nights. Sure, he's got some information or she's got information to share, which is more detailed than might be in the curriculum. But for the most part, a lot of what goes on in these classes is sharing what's going on in their business over the last couple of weeks. If they're talking about accounting, they'll talk about numbers, they talk about return on investment, they talk about cost of goods sold, and really they share great business ideas with each other. Next slide. At the end of the program, we have a graduation. And at this graduation, they get to stand on the front. They have 5 minutes to give a little pitch presentation on their business and why their business is so great. And these folks take this seriously, right? Because they're competing. They're trying to figure out, how do I get all these people in the audience to love my business and want to be my customer? So always they stand up there. We encourage them, if they want, to use props, to use PowerPoint, whatever it takes to get the people in the audience excited. And it also helps them in their own business as well, to just help their business focus on how they can move forward. Next slide. When they finish the education component, the next thing we offer is a mentor. And what we tell people is a lot of these mentors are Rotarians, but not all of them. What we're really looking for is somebody with some basic business experience who's a really good listener. Because these entrepreneurs are not asking crazy, difficult questions that you're going to say, oh man, I forgot in my MBA to remember about page 37, return on investment, and what the quotients of that on. That's not the questions they ask. The questions they often ask is, I've got this new idea for my business, a new product I want to introduce. Can I tell you about it and get your ideas? Or they might say, I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. I keep focusing on this particular customer. What do you think about what I'm doing? So oftentimes the questions they're asking are more interpersonal than anything else. We ask the mentors to commit to 6 months, and typically they're meeting really 1 or 2 times a month. So it's not a huge time commitment, but also that they might be there to be able to answer some questions on a phone or a text, once a month as well. Sometimes it's just important that the entrepreneur know somebody out there is expecting me to do something that I promised. So just like all of us, sometimes accountability is the biggest value of a mentor. And as you see there, the mentors often end up getting matched on what we call a speed dating type evening, where we put all the mentors in a room, all the mentees in a room, and end up giving the mentors a chance to pitch about what they're good at. And then the mentees get the chance to go one by one and visit with most of the mentors that they'd like to consider. And then by the end of the night, we make matches at the end based on that mutual match from both of them. Next slide. For any of you all who've been in business, you recognize networking is really, really important. So what the Launch program offers is their first line of networking is with their classmates. They also get connected often with Rotarians and business leaders. 2 of the greatest values we've learned is our Chamber of Commerce. The Raleigh Chamber offers all of our graduates a free 1-year membership. Why do they do that? They do that because not only do they want to help this group, but they also recognize that the audience that we are training are largely small entrepreneurs, and many of them are minority entrepreneurs. And our Chamber of Commerce often looks at themselves in the mirror and says, we're a bunch of older white guys. Where's all the diversity? So they've come to really like the talent and the skills that Launch Raleigh program can give them. Another group that has also really liked to participate with us and partner with us are co-working spaces. And so they offer the co-working spaces. We've got 2 of them that offer 90 days free to our graduates to come check out their co-working spaces, see what it's like to work from that location, and many of them end up choosing, I think this is really for me. I think I want to rent space here. So that's pretty exciting. Next slide. Another component that we'll mention here is the microloans. And the main loan option we offer to our students is a Kiva Loan. Kiva is originally started as a global international loan format for people in developing countries. And their key thing that they offer is a 0% interest because it's crowd-funded. Then they realized, our headquarters are in San Francisco. Maybe we ought to also be lending to folks in the United States. So one of the people they approached early on was us, the Launch Raleigh program, and said, we'd love to have your applicants and through the Launch program apply here. So typically, these are smaller loans. So we're not talking about $35,000 loans through Kiva or through our program. But what typically happens is we offer to give them a smaller loan. Then they build up credit. And then those organizations look at their credit history, how they repaid those loans, and then they're eligible for larger loans. Next slide. So an example here, I just wanted to also show a class example. This was the class of 2019. And again, lots of smiling faces, lots of different kind of businesses, anywhere from business coaching to financial and IT consulting, catering, landscaping. Make no mistake, these folks are brilliant. They are good at what they do. They're smart, they're savvy. The Launch Raleigh program, on our application, we do ask, one of the questions is your family income $60,000 or less? I would say 80 to 90% of the people in our program fall under that category. Sometimes we allow people who are more than that in because we feel like there's such a good business fit. But we do feel like we're trying to serve people who can't get some of these resources somewhere else. Next slide. Our program ended up being very successful in Raleigh. And as other Rotarians heard about me talk about our program in Raleigh, they started being interested in having launch programs in their cities too. So at the moment, we have 10 launch programs within about a 40-mile radius. Each of them are run independently. So I'm not going to their planning meetings. I'm not meeting with their entrepreneurs. Instead, most of them were seeded. They were initiated by either Rotarians or our community college partner, Wake Tech. And in almost all of them, Rotarians play an important role as either mentors, either mentors or leaders within the program. So it's really been, to me, exciting to know that this program is replicating itself all around our county. Next slide. So how do we do that? Well, one of the things that we've done is we recognize everybody doesn't need to reinvent the wheel here. Just like I stole this idea from Launch Detroit and then putting a lot of documentation to it, which they really never got around to doing, we put together a website called Launch My City. And launchmycity.org, you can go on today or tomorrow or next week and see all kinds of resources that if your community, if your club, if your district said, you know, we've got some of those needs in our community. We really think having a program like this could raise Rotary's visibility in our community. And heck, we're pretty good at these kind of things. So launchmycity.org is a website that allows you to template the resources, the forms that we've used that we put on there and share, including access to build your own Launch My City website that we make it much easier than creating a website from scratch. Sometimes people will ask me, I'm done with that, with the slides, Bob. Sometimes people ask me, well, Matthew, what about other groups that might be starting, be interested in starting these launch programs, but don't really necessarily want to focus, maybe they have a different need for their downtown community. And I say, that's great. We don't tell you what audience you need to focus on. You know your community better than we do. But our experience was we helped up folks who were minorities and were looking for a chance to help improve their businesses. But we also had one of the launch programs say, you know, our challenge is we have a lot of downtown vacancies. I'd love to be able to fill those with what we see as a bunch of home-based businesses right now and lure them to fill downtown spaces. And that's what they did. So they had a launch program. They focused specifically on home-based businesses and had a lot of success. So other clubs look at their community, fill out a needs assessment and say, here's what's important to us. This is the group we want to help. So we like to think that the Launch Raleigh program is flexible and it can help communities decide for themselves how best to move forward in a community and economic development. So that's the end of my presentation. That's what I know. I appreciate the chance to talk with you all. And,
I think we should give our participants an opportunity to ask you questions. If you want to unmute yourself and ask a question or questions of Matt, please do that.
We had some questions in the chat.
Go ahead, Marlene.
First one is, who designed the homework process?
The program that we have used for virtually all our programs is Kauffman. So the Kauffman Foundation provides a curriculum called Fast Track. they make Fast Track available to anybody who wants to put an entrepreneurship program together. And in there are opportunities to be able to determine what gets read what week to keep a consistent program going forward. I will say this, that for the first time, we've decided to give a shot at a different entrepreneurial training program called Live Plan. And one of the reasons we shifted for this particular cohort is because they're really, really good at financial data, helping businesses understand their accounting matrix, making it a little bit less intimidating, using a lot of charts and graphs instead of just numbers with spreadsheets that sometimes can be overwhelming to people who don't have spent a whole lot of time with accounting backgrounds.
Matt, I think Derek Davis has a question.
Hey, Matt, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yep. Ask your question, please.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you could hear me. This is a great program, and I'm really excited about it. I want to go full boat into it to help in any way that I can. A question for you is the entrepreneurs who have successfully completed the program. I guess some may have not successfully completed the program. Are they able to return and try again? In other words, if someone doesn't pass the program, where they get a loan or they're not working in the program, maybe they still need some help. Are those people still able to reapply or come back, or how does that work?
So one of the nice things about having a whole team, a community of partners, is that in this case, our community college takes all of our students under their wing. And during the class, and even for years after, they want to nurture these entrepreneurs and say, we have small business counselors. We want to help you be successful. Even if you didn't complete your Launch Raleigh program, we want to help you become more successful, because sometimes, if they were selected for the program and they couldn't stay, they had to leave. It doesn't happen often, honestly. Matter of fact, we went through our first 3 classes before we had anybody drop out. But eventually, because we can be pretty picky, which is pretty nice at this point, and because they end up doing it with other people, they become friends and they kind of don't want to miss a week. So we actually have a really high attendance rate and a high graduation rate. But you're right. I think your point is eventually somebody isn't going to be able to complete it. And at that point, what happens is our community college continues to help them, and we help them as we can, but we actually don't offer them another spot in a future class. We feel like we've got lots of folks, and so who would love the experience. So you get one shot to be in Launch Raleigh. If you miss it, we tried our best to help you in another way.
Marlene, did you get a question in the? I'm sorry, Derek. Is that good?
So that was a great reply.
Okay. Marlene, do you have questions in the chat box?
Yes. Have you been mentoring via Zoom, and how has that been working with the speed dating idea?
Yeah, we did. Last year, we did the speed dating on Zoom. And what happened, in a nutshell, it still worked okay. Not as good as in person. There's something about seeing people face to face. But what we did is we had the mentors record a video of themselves that was about 3 or 4 minutes long. We shared those videos of the mentors where they said, hey, my name is Matthew Kane. This is the business I'm in. These are some things I'm really good at that maybe I could help a mentee with. Also, here's some things I'm really terrible at. If you need somebody, for instance, with social media, I'm not your person, right? Find somebody else. So they'll talk about their skills and their weaknesses, put it on a video. The mentees all got a chance to watch those videos and say, okay, when on mentor match night, when we break up into groups, I want to go for that person, but don't want to talk to that person. So it did help them do it even in a social media platform.
The name of the new company that you're using for the curriculum was, did you say that was Kaufman?
The new one is called Live Plan, and you all can look at that yourselves, liveplan.com, LIVEPLAN. And it's really exceptional program. That one costs money. So that one we pay about $100 per student, and it allows them access to the program for a full, I think, 10 months. So not just during the class, but even longer. And one of the benefits is it allows the facilitator to see their homework really easily because they're filling out the information on Live Plan. Also, when they're assigned a mentor, the mentor, they can also give access to their Live Plan business plan just by adding them as a partner. And so we find that there's a lot of benefits of the Live Plan program that Kaufman wasn't able to offer. However, it also costs $100 per student. So if you say, we got a modest budget, then you say, look, Kaufman worked for them for years and years. So Kaufman is really a strong program. They are the largest trainer of entrepreneur curriculum in the country, maybe the world.
How much is Kaufman?
Zero.
Wow.
Yeah, Kaufman makes their curriculum available to anybody across the United States who wants to put together a program. Actually, I think even if you're not associated with the program, they would allow you to access their information. It helps a lot if you're in a class, if you're in a setting, if you've got a facilitator. But again, so much of this information you can find on launchmycity.org. Look under one of the tabs is a resource kit, and we try to put much of that information there.
Has this been successfully adapted for community downtown programs?
Well, I would say our program is actually pretty downtown. Most of our residents live within probably, 2 miles of downtown Raleigh. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but yeah, ours is a fairly urban population. But one of the things people ask me sometimes is they say, Matthew, what's the ideal community size for this program? And my answer is, we've had some folks in Lenawee, Michigan, with a little tiny population of farming town, and they put this program on. They put a bunch of community partners together. Many times they met each other for the first time. They launched Lenawee together, and their first class had 7 entrepreneurs. Then the next one they had 11, and now they're running smooth. They bring partners together, and they end up saying, "Wow, this is really pretty great." And then we've got other bigger cities as well. I had a chance to have a presentation to a group in outside Austin in Temple, Texas, just last week. And they're looking at the Launch My City program, and they said, you make this look less intimidating. Like maybe we could actually do it. And I said, yeah, that's the goal. Is that this is a Rotary program. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Detroit started it. We made it better and documented it.
Okay, Gail, unmute yourself.
So you started Launch My City as well. You started Launch Raleigh, and then you turn it into Launch My City. Is there a charge to do that, to use your Launch My City program?
Nope, no charge. No, we don't charge for that at all. We're honored and thrilled that you want to replicate the program. And we're Rotarians, and so we're used to not getting paid for what we do.
I've got a longer question here for you. How long did it take you to get the first cohort from inception of the idea to creation of the program and starting the first cohort? With your guidance plans for the future starts, what is the expected lead time for a city to create a similar program?
Yeah, great question. It took us a year to start off with. That includes me being on the phone with these poor guys from Detroit, Michigan, saying, "Oh, that's Matthew calling again with more questions." And then we said, all right, so what's our program going to look like? Because they really didn't have much documentation. into recruiting people. Anyway, it took a full year from the time we had our conception of the idea, pitched it to my Rotary Club, where they said, yeah, I think we would like to do this. And then recruiting community partners, and then kind of creating everything largely from scratch. These days, and I think this is the more important answer, is typically it's about 6 months from a club saying, you know, I wonder if we could do this, until they say, okay, next week starts our first, Launch Bethlehem program. Let's figure out how to get this going. And it's starting next week.
So how much time did it take of your schedule personally? How many members of your club jumped in?
Members jumped in at different levels. We had lots of members jump in to say, hey, on that first class, when you need a lot of people to come in and drink wine and eat snacks and cheer at the appropriate time when we introduce the entrepreneurs, lots of help there. Less help when we said, okay, who's going to run this part of the program? Who's going to run that part of the program? And frankly, it actually was helpful, because it forced us to say, well, Rotary can't be doing this. With our little club, we got too many projects going on. They're just not going to take this and run it all themselves, which in fact is what the Launch Detroit program had done. So it forced us to look outside the club. And then we realized it's actually better going outside the club, because you're bringing in partners whose job you're helping with their mission anyway. So the group that puts together mentors called SCORE, they were happy to help with us because that's what they do for a living. The community college was thrilled because they said, our mission is to educate, among other people, entrepreneurs, right? So when you find people who already do it for a living, they're really good at it, they love doing it, and they're really happy to welcome Rotary to the space.
So does Launch My City show a Rotary Club how to do a community needs assessment?
One of the things, the tools in there in the resource kit, is a sample needs assessment. But just like any global grant that any of your clubs would ever choose to do, is required to do a needs assessment. And I would dare say, for pretty much any project, if you don't do a needs assessment, you're trying to answer questions. You're trying to provide answers to questions that you don't know are accurate. But if you do a needs assessment and you ask the people in town, what are your needs and how can Rotary help? That's a lot better than saying, I think we've got this program that's going to educate all you people better than you're doing now, so why don't you sign up? Right? That's not the best approach. The best approach is saying, hi, we're Rotarians and we want to help. We know about this program that's worked in other cities at building entrepreneurship and helping support small businesses. And we're wondering if it might be applicable in our community as well. And frankly, sometimes the answer is no. I've had some folks go out to their community in Wilmington, North Carolina, and they came away saying, Matthew, I love the idea, but I've come across about 17 organizations. And while none of them to already help support entrepreneurs, even Main Street entrepreneurs. And I said, great, go chase another of the world's problems, right? Don't even do a Launch Wilmington. Let them do it, and you go solve, hunger in Wilmington or education in Wilmington.
So did you find that there are other similar programs that existed, or do you mostly find that there's a void of this type of program?
What I often find is when people start asking the question, what they often get is, oh yeah, we've got something like that. But when you ask the second question, and when you say, oh, so what you're saying is you've got a program that offers education, mentors, networking, and capital, is that what you're telling me you have? Always they say, oh, no, not all four of them. We just do the education part. Or, yeah, we help with loans. Or we've got a group of people who help a little bit, but just on Saturdays, every other Saturday at a Starbucks. But what I found is that almost nobody offers this program to this audience at a replicable rate. But yeah, so I do think if you chose to pursue this, that your communities, unless they already just have crazy amount of stuff going on, I think you'd find them really, really welcoming.
How many microloans does the program make to students as a percentage of students?
Great question. For Launch Raleigh, almost none. And you say, what? What do you mean? They don't want money? The answer I've learned is a little bit based on the audience you're working with. What we've learned is that we've offered people money, and we say we're offering small loans, $2,500, $3,500. What we've learned over time is, yeah, we don't need $3,500. I need $8,000, need $10,000. So we're learning more about it. So now we're getting in the habit of training them to say, if you want 10,000, let's do a smaller loan first. And then when you pay back that one, we'll do from 3,000, the next loan will be 6,000. 6,000 will then move to 10,000. So we're learning as we go. Some of the other launch programs, the launch program in Durham, North Carolina, 20 miles away, has had lots of loans go through the Kiva program of people borrowing anywhere from $2,500 to $7,000. So different communities use the loan funds for different reasons and at different rates.
How long did it take between the time you first began the idea of Launch Raleigh until you actually started implementing the program?
About a year. Yeah, from the time that I first pitched the program until we had our first class. About a year. There's a bigger learn. And the Launch My City idea allows you all to spend a lot of time downloading documents, reviewing information. And then if you say, you know, this makes sense for our community, let's do it. Then the effort it takes to get that started is a lot less and a lot faster.
And can a Rotary Club offer, as I guess an incentive, a one-year membership in the Rotary Club to graduates of the program?
Sure. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I know of a club in Durham, North Carolina, that decided we don't have the minorities in our club that we should. And we know they're out there. We know they're smart, they're savvy, but for some reason, we're not reaching them. So what they chose to do, and this is independent of their launch program, they ended up putting a program where they reached out to directors of nonprofits who were minority members themselves and said, we're looking for a team of 5 different people, all who are leaders within nonprofits who serve minority populations. And we want to bring you all in as a whole cohort next, starting July 1st into our Rotary Club. And you don't pay any dues, you don't pay anything for lunch. And we pay all your expenses for 2 years. At the end of 2 years, we give you the next year at a graduated cost, but then after 3 years, you pay full board. So the idea is we want to bring you into Rotary, show you what you're all about, bring you in with others who are like-minded and maybe of a similar minority ethnic group. In this case, I was going to say some Latinos and some Black leaders, but they didn't feel like they were walking into a group where nobody looked like them. So that helped them and helped that program be successful. I know that's a long answer.
Interesting concept, though.
Yeah.
So how many years have you been doing this, and what kind of follow-up do you have with the graduates?
Our first class was our planning year was 2016. Our first classes started 2017. We've now had a total, we are now on our 7th cohort. And what was the second part of that question?
What kind of follow-up?
Oh,
do you do after the graduate?
one of the things we've done, because we've had so many people, so many other Rotary clubs in our district say, I love this idea, we want to reproduce it. We actually have a launch program specifically for our county that it includes all the graduates from all the different programs. So my county is called Wake County. So we have about 450 people who have graduated, about the size of a chamber of commerce. And our community college keeps close tabs on those folks, keeps them knowing that they are welcome to take additional classes. They'll call them on the phone. They have access to loan opportunities, grant opportunities, educational workshops. My own Launch Raleigh program, each week we meet on Tuesday, we invite 2 graduates of the program to come back and give a 5-minute pitch on their business and what they learned from their Launch Raleigh experience when they were in the class. So we do like to think that we try to keep them engaged. We don't make them, some of them, like any time, they come in, they get what they can, and then they move off to their business. But I know the vast majority of them have really benefited from the program. As a matter of fact, I don't know that I've ever met anyone who didn't really benefit from it, because you're given an opportunity to learn about your specific business. You're surrounded with other entrepreneurs. You're supported by a community of people who are cheering for you. You've got a mentor. You've got access to capital and a chance to be in the Chamber of Commerce and networking spaces, and everybody wants you to succeed, right? What's to hate about that?
I think we need to do a road trip, go down to Raleigh and see for ourselves.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny you say that. Tonight, or yesterday when I gave a presentation to Rotary leadership, there was a guy from Puerto Rico who said, Matthew, I love this idea. Maybe I'll come up and visit you. And I said, you don't even have to. Why don't you join a future Launch Raleigh class? It's on Zoom. So he was there tonight. And he listened in the background, took a bunch of notes, and I'm sure he's going to call me tomorrow and say, hey, Matthew, how do we get this thing started? So if any of you all think you might be interested in kind of being a little fly on the wall and listening to the program in the future, I'd be happy to welcome you.
How much money should a Rotary Club budget in order to get the program off the ground in the first year? What do we need to put in our budgets for that?
Like all good programs, the answer is it depends. And it depends on the number of partners you have. What I found is it didn't cost my Rotary Club very much at all, because we had a partner who paid the cost. Our education partner paid the cost. The only person who gets paid in all this launch program is the facilitator. And I think our facilitator, we pay something like $3,000, $2,800, something like that, to facilitate and do homework for 10 consecutive weeks for a class of about 20 people. Because we feel we're not going to ask somebody to volunteer for that. That's real work. And we want somebody who's really passionate about it. So that's a fixed cost. We also offer meals, and that's a cost, but you don't have to offer meals. You can do what you want. We also don't pay for any classroom space because we have partners who cover that cost. So my point is, the more partners you bring in, the more of those costs your partners absorb, and your Rotary Club doesn't have to. But what I say is, consider looking at about $2,500 at a low end to do a class from beginning to end, and maybe a high of $8,000 if you have almost no partners and you're trying to wing it yourselves, and you're trying to do it like we've done it. But you can also cut costs and say, look, we've got some groups who say, look, we don't have that much money in our budget. We're going to provide food, but we're going to ask some of the community churches to kick in money or to basically provide food for a buffet. or we're just going to offer pizza each week. You know, that costs $50. So there are definitely ways to keep the cost down.
Do you have any areas where there are clubs that are very close and they share doing an area like, they do one program between two clubs?
Perfect question. Yeah, I always encourage people on a project like this, find other clubs near you, share the challenge together. Cary, North Carolina is a bedroom community of Raleigh. There are 5 Rotary clubs in Cary. Those 5 clubs put together Launch Cary, and they share all the responsibilities for the program, but mainly what they handle is the mentorship component. So they're recruiting mentors from 5 Rotary clubs. So it makes it a lot easier for them to do that. And again, mentors don't have to be Rotarians, but that's an easy place to start.
Great.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Does anyone have anything to ask Matt? Look, I gotta say, Matt, you talk about people with passion, energy, and willingness to serve. I mean, that really characterizes what we're hearing from you. I'm impressed with your generosity, the energy you bring to this project, and the real facility you have for telling us in simple terms how to get it off the ground. I really appreciate you coming up. And by the way, I'll be in Raleigh for Thanksgiving. Actually, Emerald Isle, but we'll come to Raleigh too. Anyway, maybe you've inspired one of our District 7430 clubs to undertake a project like Launch Raleigh. And I hope we get some traction up here in this district. I'm going to ask everyone to remember next month is Foundation Month. Please join us on November 9th at 7 o'clock for our next Showcase Tuesday featuring the Rotary Foundation. Good night and be well.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Fabulous program.
Thank you. Bob, I'd be comfortable if you wanted to share my email address to anybody on the call this evening.
Okay, I'll do
That
that.
would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, careful what you wish for, Matt.
Happy. Yeah, well, good. I appreciate the interest in the clubs and yeah, I can tell you all like each other, which is kind of a fun reason to be involved with Rotary at the district level.
Absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to pull the plug on this one. Everyone, good night. Thank you.
Great.